Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sanesh Iyer, fondly known at BCIT as student number A00882879. And today I'd just like to start my presentation by getting a sense of the audience. So could you please put your hand up if you are a mechanical technology student? And are there any electrical technology students in the audience with us today? Awesome. And any civil technology students? Great. And do we have any business students in the room? Awesome, one, that's great. And out of all of you, how many of you know just 3 other students from any other discipline? Not very many. And out of all of you, again, how many of you have worked with students from another discipline on a project or assignment? 1. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Cross-functional teams in industry and at BCIT. Specifically, how we can develop BCIT's learning environment to more closely resemble technical industry by getting students working with students from other disciplines. We'll be talking about modern product development and how that leads to cross-functional teams in industry, and how we can develop cross-functional teams here at BCIT. So, starting with the modern product, something that we all know and love, the automobile. But despite being so common, the automobile has many development considerations, from technical, such as mechanical engineering, and electrical control systems are of particular note because they're becoming increasingly common in the modern world, as well as financial and other management concerns, and styling and sales, ensuring a product is being developed that fills a market need and will be successful for the company. So, despite being so common, something like the automobile, along with many other modern products, involves a variety of skill sets to develop. And in industry, that leads to something called a cross-functional team that combines skill sets to work throughout the project development cycle. And by combining skill sets, a company can ensure that a product is optimized from everyone's point of view, from product discovery right through to product support, allowing for a product to be more efficient in development with a decreased timeline and decreased cost for the company, and ultimately leading to a product that is consistent, creative, and innovative that satisfies the customer's needs. Because of the advantages and the complexity of the modern product, most companies, large and small, use cross-functional teams, and it's something that you'll likely run into in the modern world. So, taking a step back home to BCIT, I've got a map here of our Burnaby campus that we all know and love, and we're just going to take a look at this from a mechanical engineering student's point of view. This is where we have class. This is where we hang out. I didn't know there were buildings here until I looked at this map. And this is a scary place that we definitely don't go. So this shows the separation we have here at BCIT. As a mechanical student, I share rooms with robotics and mechatronics students, but we don't interact much in class, and we never work together on projects or assignments, let alone do we work with business students and tradespeople. And that's an unrealistic representation of the real world where we'll be expected to work together on projects for our company. Something else we currently have at BCIT is 2nd and 4th year capstone projects, which are good but do have some shortcomings as well, such as that they're fairly individual and tend not to be developed heavily across years. And there's limited time. We're fairly busy as students, so 20 weeks is not a whole lot of time to work on them. And most importantly, there's little integration of disciplines. It's easier and encouraged to work with students from your own discipline on these projects, which is an unrealistic representation of the real world where we'll have to work with students who have other skill sets. So how do I propose we fix this and develop cross-functional teams here at BCIT? I propose the use of student teams that participate in annual organized student challenges of increased complexity and realism and work on them across years, so from 1st to 4th year. And due to the nature of many of these challenges, they promote interdisciplinary and cross-functional work just because it's required for success. And there's an amazing amount of student investment involved. Because many of these challenges are so fun, students are actually willing to dedicate lots of their own time to work on these challenges as an investment of their own. And most importantly, because of the cross-functional work that is required for success at these challenges, they provide a more realistic representation of industry than the current student projects do. So some examples of student challenges. There's the Marine Tech ROV Challenge, which BCIT has participated in the past, that challenges students to design and build an underwater vehicle that can navigate an obstacle course, which involves technical skills such as mechanical engineering, robotics, mechatronics, and manufacturing, but also involves non-technical skills such as funding. And by funding, I don't just mean that the school needs to pump money into these programs to make them work. Many successful student teams integrate business students to promote the project to the outside world and get sponsorship from industry. And because many of these teams are quite expensive, that's almost prerequisite for their success in the long term and promotes interdisciplinary work here at school. Another example of a student team is Baja SAE, which challenges students to design and build an off-road vehicle, which they then race. And this is a mechanical engineering contest that also involves electrical systems, and manufacturing and design for manufacturing is a big reason for success or failure at this contest. So integrating manufacturing students is invaluable for success at Baja, as well as funding. Many successful teams integrate business students into the team to help promote and get continual support from industry, because these vehicles can cost upwards of $10,000. So long-term support requires the support of outside industry. So what do we require from BCIT to support student teams? Well, shop time, namely on weekend and summer hours. Again, you'd be amazed at the amount of time students are willing to dedicate to these projects if given the opportunity, as well as more promotion by instructors. We should be encouraged to work on these student teams as a substitute for our capstone projects because they provide a more realistic representation of industry. And lastly, funding, whether that's direct investment from the school, but more importantly, the integration of business students on the team to get industry sponsorship and provide a facet of realism for the team. In summary, cross-functional teams are highly valued in industry and very common, but academic institutions tend to do a poor job of developing them because of the separation of skill sets. The development of student teams allows for the development of cross-functional skills right here at school and promotes a realistic representation of industry for the students involved. At this point, I'd like to thank you for your time and invite any questions the judges may have. Peter?
Do you have a microphone or no?
I do have a microphone.
I don't need one.
Oh, you don't need one. Yep.
One of the, I guess the question I have is different disciplines tend to attract, people that are obviously that are interested in this. And often the thought process is different in those different areas. How do you see challenges around that? How might you address those?
So just to clarify for everyone, Peter's question is how do we develop, or students who go into different disciplines have different mindsets, and that will present an organizational challenge on a team. And some ways to work around that is have maybe a course that's specifically designed around interdisciplinary work that many students are enrolled in so that we actually learn these skills in a managed way. And that is part of the challenge, but that's also where the value comes from, is developing the ability to work with students and people who have mindsets and skill sets other than your own. And that's a challenge that many people will face when they get their first job. So facilitating that development here at school will add value to our education here.
Great.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Awesome. Val?
Thank you for your presentation. My question, you indicate that this is advisable to do this and to start these initiatives because you would then be replicating what students would face once they get out into industry. But what I didn't hear is why do it? Why would industry do it, or why do you think it should be learned here? Is there an economic benefit? Like, what are the benefits that flow from interdisciplinary knowledge?
So Val's question was essentially what benefit is there to learning interdisciplinary skills here versus learning them in industry? And
Overall,
in both.
what's the justification?
So why do we develop cross-functional skill sets in general? Well, again, in the modern world, the products and the services that many companies provide are very complex in their nature and require skill sets from mechanical engineering to electrical engineering to business and marketing. And so again, for a company, that presents an organizational challenge because traditionally companies have been participating in what's called an over-the-wall development, where a product will move from sales to market, or from sales who will get the idea to management who will approve an idea to the various stages of engineering and finally to production. And in that process, you lose communication between departments, and so there's a disconnect that ends up occurring between each of the departments and ultimately the customer's needs. And so by assembling a team in a cross-functional way, you're able to keep the customer's needs and the product needs at the heart of the project rather than have it lost in communication. So the development of cross-functional teams is valued in industry for that reason, because it streamlines the development process, and developing it here at school would allow students to be more useful in industry and more hireable in industry right out of school. Does that answer your, awesome. Are there any other questions? Gordon?
You made a couple of suggestions about volunteering as part of the time capsule as well, perhaps taking your capstone time and working on this. And I think you suggested we might even be in the need for a course. And I guess my question is, if I was a student in a full-time program, am I going to be able to find the extra time with the Institute, have to take a look at each program and say, do we need to change the curriculum if we went for this?
So just to clarify your question, it is how would we take the time demands on a BCIT student and allow BCIT students to work on these student teams during the academic year? And yes, I believe a curriculum change would be needed for that. And you likely need to adjust the project capstone course in a way that integrates disciplines so that each discipline shares a similar schedule for their capstone course, allowing them to work together. And something that actually happens quite a bit at UBC is they're often allowed to work on teams such as Baja and Formula over the summer and on weekends, which is a difficult thing to do here just because of the restrictions on shop time. So having access to those resources outside of the traditional school week and school year would help promote these teams to students. And again, when else in your life are you going to get to build a car at the end of the day? Awesome. Thank you very much.